Welcome to Coin Collector's World. In today's video we are going to explore the fascinating world of the 1979 Washington quarter. We will cover the history of this coin, the different mint marks you can find, special varieties that collectors look for, and of course the current market value of these quarters. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what to look for in your own change or collection. Let's start with the background. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to celebrate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Over the years, it has become one of the most recognizable coins in American history. By 1979, quarters were being produced in large numbers, and unlike earlier issues, they no longer contained silver. Instead, they were struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition. This makes most examples quite common, but as always in numismatics, the details make the difference. Now, where to find the mint mark? On a 1979 quarter, the mint mark is located on the front side of the coin, just to the right of Washington's ponytail ribbon. In that year there were three possibilities. Coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint carry no mint mark at all. This means if your quarter has no letter, it was minted in Philadelphia. Coins struck at the Denver Mint carry the letter D. Finally, coins struck at the San Francisco Mint, which were made only as proofs for collectors, carry the letter S. The San Francisco proofs are especially interesting because in 1979 there were two different styles of the S mint mark. One is known as the Type 1 filled S, where the mint mark looks somewhat blurry or filled in. The other is the Type 2 clear S, where the letter is sharp and well defined. Collectors often prefer the clear S, and it can bring a premium. Now let's talk about values. Most 1979 quarters you find in circulation will be worth only their face value of 25 cents. They were produced in huge numbers, and most examples are heavily worn from everyday use. However, when you find coins in mint state condition, meaning they have never been circulated and still retain their original luster, values begin to rise. A 1979 Philadelphia no mint mark quarter in mint state 66 can sell for around $28. If you manage to find one in mint state 67 or higher, prices can climb into the hundreds of dollars. The same goes for Denver quarters. A 1979 D quarter in mint state 67 has been known to sell for around $190, and coins in mint state 68 have sold for nearly $300. These are exceptional coins, but they do exist. San Francisco proof quarters are also collectible. While many proofs are not especially rare, the Type 2 clear S proof is more desirable. High-grade proof coins with strong mirrors and no marks can sell for solid premiums. We cannot forget about error coins. Errors from the minting process can include double dies, off-center strikes, missing mint marks, or issues with the metal layers. These coins are much scarcer and their values depend heavily on the type of error and the condition of the coin. Some errors can be worth tens of dollars, while dramatic mistakes can reach into the hundreds. So what does all this mean for you? If you have a 1979 quarter, the first step is to check the mint mark. Then look closely at the overall condition of the coin. If it looks uncirculated, has sharp details, and retains strong luster, you might want to consider sending it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. These companies can authenticate the coin, assign it an official grade, and that can make a big difference when it comes time to sell. The coin market is always changing, so it's important to check recent auction results for coins with the same mint mark and grade as yours. Prices go up and down depending on demand, rarity, and collector interest. To wrap it all up, the 1979 Washington quarter is a common coin in circulation, but the rare gems are out there. High-grade mint state coins, clear S-proof varieties, and unusual mint errors are where the real value lies. If you have one of these in your collection, it could be worth far more than just 25 cents. Today we are going to take a deep look at the 1989 Washington quarter with the D mint mark from the Denver Mint. This is a coin that may seem common at first glance, but under the right circumstances it can actually be worth a surprising amount of money in today's coin market. The Washington quarter has a long history going back to 1932 when it was first introduced to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington. It replaced the standing Liberty quarter and quickly became a cornerstone of American Coinage by 1989. The design had already been in circulation for decades and millions of these coins were produced every year. The Denver Mint alone struck over 896 million Washington quarters in 1989. That means almost 900 million coins left the mint, making this one of the more common dates in the series because of that massive mintage. Most 1989 D quarters you find in circulation today are only worth face value, 25 cents. They were made with a copper nickel clad composition, meaning they are not silver like older quarters from before 1965, so the base metal content alone does not add much value. However, what truly matters to collectors is condition, rarity of errors, and the highest grade examples that survive today. Let's talk about condition first. In circulated grades like what you would find in your pocket change, these coins are generally worth just a quarter, but when you step up into uncirculated condition, things begin to change. A coin graded mint state 65, often called gem uncirculated, can sell for $10 to $15 depending on the market. In mint state 66, the value rises further, often selling for $40 to $50. Now here is where things get really interesting. At mint state 67, which is an extremely high grade and very difficult to find for this coin, values can reach $200 or more. Some top graded examples have even crossed the $300 mark at auction because collectors love registry quality coins now. Let's move on to the exciting world of errors and varieties. Every once in a while a coin leaves the mint with a mistake, and collectors love these rare oddities. For the 1989 D Washington quarter, some of the errors that have been reported include off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, double die obverse or reverse varieties where the design appears doubled, and clipped planchets where part of the coin is literally cut off during production. Depending on the severity, these error coins can sell for anywhere from $50 to several $100s, sometimes even more if the error is dramatic and eye-catching. One thing to remember is that when we talk about coin values, they are always tied to the current coin market as of right now. Demand for high-grade Washington quarters from the 1980s remains solid because collectors working on complete sets often need the toughest dates and the highest grades. Even though the 1989 D is not a rare date by mintage, finding one that is nearly flawless, with strong luster, sharp strikes, and no distracting marks, is much more challenging than people think. That is why top population coins graded by services like PCGS or NGC are worth so much more than an average uncirculated quarter. So the takeaway is this: if you find a 1989 D Washington quarter in your pocket change, don't just toss it aside. Check the coin carefully. If it has a very sharp strike, minimal marks, and still retains its original luster, it could be worth getting graded. And if you happen to spot an error or a variety, then you might be holding on to something truly special. Coin collecting is all about history, rarity, and condition, and the 1989 D quarter is a perfect example of how even modern-looking coins can surprise you with hidden value. Today's video we are going to talk about a very interesting coin that many people overlook in their pocket change. It is the 1990 Washington quarter with the D Mint mark from the Denver Mint. At first glance it looks like just a regular 25-cent piece that you could use in a vending machine or spend at the store, but the truth is that certain examples of this coin can be worth a lot of money depending on condition and rarity. Let us begin with a little history. The Washington quarter design was first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington. It has remained a mainstay of American coinage for decades. By 1,990 millions of quarters were struck for circulation, and one of the mints responsible was the Denver Mint, which places the letter D Mint mark on its coins. That is why on a genuine 1990 D quarter you will see the small d just to the right of George Washington's ponytail on the front side of the coin. Now many people ask, how much is a 1990 D quarter worth? The simple answer is that in average circulated condition it is usually worth just face value of 25 cents. However, the story does not end there, because collectors are always on the hunt for high-grade coins and error coins, and that is where the real money lies. If you take a 1990 D quarter that is uncirculated and has been preserved in beautiful condition, it can bring in a nice premium. Coins graded mint state 63 may sell for $2 to $5. At mint state 65 the price often climbs to $10 or more, and when you go to the highest levels such as mint state 67 or above, these coins can reach into the hundreds of dollars. In fact, some superb gem examples with perfect strike, full luster, and almost no contact marks have sold at auction for well over $200. But condition is not the only factor. Error coins are another exciting area that makes the 1990 D quarter valuable. For example, an off-center strike where part of the design is missing because the planchet was not lined up correctly during minting can sell for $50 to a few hundred depending on how dramatic the error is. A double die error where the lettering or numbers appear doubled can also command strong prices from collectors. Even clipped planchets or coins struck on the wrong metal can fetch impressive sums. The coin market right now continues to show strong interest in Washington quarters from the modern era, especially in high-grade registry set. Collectors who want the absolute best examples will pay top dollar for coins graded MS67 and higher. So if you happen to find a 1990 D quarter that looks extra sharp with no wear or scratches, it is always worth checking to see if it qualifies as a mint state example. Now let's quickly recap. In circulated condition, the 1990 D quarter is only worth face value. In uncirculated grades, you can expect anywhere from a few dollars to $10 or $20. In mint state 67, these coins have sold for $200 or more, and error coins can push the value into the hundreds, depending on the rarity of the mistake. So the lesson is clear: never ignore those coins in your pocket. Change something as ordinary as a 1990 D quarter could turn out to be a small treasure if it is in the right condition or has the right kind of error. Always keep your eyes open and check your coins carefully. You never know when you might be holding a valuable piece of history. Today we are going to take a deep dive into one of the modern coins that looks ordinary but can be surprisingly valuable. We are talking about the 1997 Washington quarter with the P mint mark. This coin was minted in the city of Philadelphia, and although hundreds of millions were struck, there are special examples that can be worth far more than face value. So if you collect coins or just want to know if you might have treasure hiding in your change, stay tuned until the end, because you are going to learn everything about this quarter, its history, its values, and the errors you need to look for. Let's start with the history of the Washington quarter. The Washington quarter was first introduced back in 1932 during the Great Depression. It was originally meant to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The design was created by sculptor John Flanagan, and it showed a profile of George Washington on the obverse and a bold eagle with outstretched wings on the reverse. For decades, this design remained the standard quarter in circulation, and Americans became very familiar with it. By 1997, the design was in its final years because the United States Mint was preparing for the launch of the famous 50-state quarters program, which began in 1999. That program completely changed the look of the quarter and made coin collecting popular again for millions of people. So the 1997 issue represents one of the very last quarters with the traditional eagle reverse. In fact, only the 1998 issue followed before the design retired forever. That historical connection already gives the 1997 quarter an important place in the series. Now let's talk about minting and production. In 1997, 3 mints produced Washington quarters: the Philadelphia Mint, which used the P mint mark, the Denver Mint with the D mint mark, and the San Francisco Mint, which produced proof coins with the S mint mark. The Philadelphia Mint struck more than 595 million of these coins, which is an enormous number. That is why most people assume the coin is common and not worth anything more than 25 cents, but collectors know that condition and rarity of high grades matter much more than the raw mintage. So let's break down the values by condition. A circulated 1997 P quarter, the kind you find in pocket change or in a coin jar, is almost always worth only face value, which is 25 cents. These are too common to carry any premium unless they have an error. But if you have an uncirculated example, meaning a coin that has never been used in daily commerce, then the value starts to climb. Coins in mint state 63 or mint state 64 can sell for $5 to $10 each. In mint state 65, which is considered gem uncirculated, the value increases to around $15 to $20. At mint state 66, you might see sales between $30 and $50, but once a coin reaches mint state 67, the price jumps dramatically, and that is where things get exciting. Auction records show that 1997 P quarters in MS67 have sold for $200 to $300 depending on I appeal. Now for the rarest grades, mint state 68 or higher, these coins are extremely hard to find because the minting quality was not perfect in the late 1990s. A single coin graded MS68 can bring $1,000 or even more at auction. So yes, it is possible that a quarter you hold in your hand could be worth hundreds or even thousands if the condition is perfect. Errors and varieties make this coin even more interesting. The 1997 P quarter has been reported with several error types. There are double die obverse varieties, where you can see doubling on the letters Liberty or In God We Trust, or even on the date itself. These double die coins can sell from $50 up to several hundred depending on how strong the doubling is. Another type of error to look for is off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing because the coin was not properly aligned in the press. Minor off-center errors may sell for $25 to $50, but dramatic Ones where 30 to 50% of the design is missing can easily bring $200 or more. There are also broad strike errors, clipped planchets, and coins with missing letters due to grease-filled dies. Every one of these error types is sought after by collectors and can multiply the value of your coin. Now let's put this into perspective with the current market in 2025. A circulated example is worth 25 cents. An average uncirculated one is worth $5 to $20. In high mint state grades, the coin jumps into the hundreds. An MS-67 could sell for $200 to $300. An MS-68 could easily cross the $1,000 mark at a major auction, and special errors and varieties could be anywhere from $50 to $500 depending on rarity. So what should you do if you have a 1997 P quarter? The first step is to carefully examine the coin under good lighting. Look for any signs of doubling or unusual striking, then evaluate the condition. Does the coin still have full mint luster, or is it scratched and worn? If you believe you have a high-grade example, the next step is to send it to a professional grading service such as PCGS or NGC. Certified grades carry much higher premiums because collectors trust the authentication and the grading standards. Coin collecting is not only about the money value but also about the history and the connection to the past. The Washington Quarter has been a part of American life for nearly a century, and millions of people have used it in daily commerce. Finding a rare or high-grade example gives you a piece of history that very few people own. It is like holding a little treasure from the 1990s that still has importance today. So the lesson is simple: always check your change and your coin rolls. That ordinary 1997 P Washington Quarter could actually be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars if you know what to look for. This is why collectors always say the hunt never ends, because treasures can appear anywhere, even in your pocket. Thank you for joining us today on Coin Collector's World, where every episode brings you closer to the hidden value inside your pocket change. Remember to subscribe, like, and share so more collectors can join our growing community of treasure hunters. Keep searching, keep collecting, and never stop believing that the next coin you find could be the discovery of a lifetime. Until next time, this is Coin Collector's World, where coins tell stories and collectors make history.